Bonjour, bonjour, and welcome to my new podcast. After more than 5 years and over 250 episodes, I am moving in a different direction, but I'm still going to bring you all the great stories of French history and more every week here at Paris in Bleu Blanc Rouge. I have gotten questions over time on the internet about the name and thinking that I spelled blanc as in white incorrectly, but just look at a picture of me and you'll figure it out where the blonde comes from. Each week, I'm going to bring you a deeper look at a person, a historical event, a museum, a piece of art, and so much more, as well as tips, tricks, and things you must see when you come to Paris. This will allow me to also do some breaking news episodes on the heist of the crown jewels, which we also actually have today. So hang on to the end for some words of wisdom to help you maximize your time in Paris and an update on the theft. But my very first episode, I want to tell you a little bit more about the Imperial Crowns of the Second Empire. This is something that I have loved to find everywhere you go in the city, and I'll tell you exactly how you could find them as well as a little bit of a history of them. This is, of course, has been made a lot of news in the last 3 months because of the brazen heist at the Louvre, when the imperial crown of Empress Eugenie was stolen and then dropped. But first, we have to go back to 1853. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte was elected the first president of France in 1848, serving until the coup d'etat on December 2nd, 1852, which declared him emperor and marked the start of the Second Empire. This is the same date as his uncle Napoleon Bonaparte's coronation in Notre Dame in 1804. Louis Napoleon now became Napoleon III, and next on the list was to find a wife. In 1849, he had met the beautiful and young Eugenie de Montijo, who played the long game and adapted the very French girl game of hard to get over 3 years. She finally gave in, and on January 30th, 1853, the two were married at Notre Dame. Now that he had an empress, Napoleon III wanted a historic coronation reminiscent of his uncle's, but it never would come to light. However, that didn't stop him from having a new crown created for the would-be occasion. In 1851, the Universal Exhibition in London was the first time jewels were featured, and Napoleon III wanted to be sure to show them up when it was his turn in 1855. He commissioned jeweler Alexander Gabriel Lemonnier, jeweler to the emperor, to create a handful of pieces representing France, including 2 imperial crowns. The crown of Napoleon Bonaparte, which can still be seen, luckily, today in the Louvre, was called the crown of Charlemagne. Like many of the kings of France before him, they all linked their monarchy to the first Holy Roman Emperor, calling their crowns the crown of Charlemagne. Napoleon III was going to be a little bit different, even from his uncle. In 1805, Napoleon Bonaparte had an updated coat of arms created, topped with a crown featuring eagles and palmettes. It can now be seen on a coin found in the Monet Museum, which is a great place to visit that nobody goes to. This was the inspiration Napoleon III needed, and he asked Lemonnier to bring it to life. Lemonnier collaborated with sculptors Auguste and Joseph Fenier, who created the 8 eagles of the imperial coat of arms. Jeweler Pierre-Joseph Emmanuel Maire built the structure, and Lemonnier adopted it and adorned it with precious stones. To legitimize his reign, Napoleon III used a handful of crown jewels associated with the crown of Charles X. The crown features fleur-de-lis, an emblem the empire rejected, and was set with diamonds, including many of the important diamonds of the actual crown jewels of France. The band of the crown of Napoleon III had a double row of diamonds, and in the center, 8 large diamonds. These diamonds were some of the most fantastic jewels of the crown that sadly we don't really have anymore, but it included a 29.2 carat de Guise diamond, a 22.86 trapezoidal diamond of Louis XVIII, a 25 carat fleur de pêche, which actually had a little bit of a peachy color to it, a 25.8 carat Baps diamond belonging to Napoleon I, the 19.07 carat Grand Mazarin, the 26.3 Marguerite cushion rectangle diamond, and a 17-carat oblong diamond, as well as an 18.56 oval diamond from a necklace of Marie Louise, the second wife of Napoleon. Each diamond was separated by a large emerald, the personal property of the emperor. Above the band, forming the cage, are 8 large eagles with their wings spread, extended to the top, interspersed with 8 palmettes covered in diamonds, separated with 16 round and oval emeralds at the base, with 8 large diamonds in the center. The most historic of all the crown jewels, and one we thankfully do still have, is the 141-carat Regent diamond that sat at the top of the crown. A globe marked the top of the Regent with a band of 34 emeralds around the center, completely covered with diamonds. It was then topped with a cross that gave the Bonaparte legacy legitimacy and appearance of the divine right to lead. The emperor's crown was finished on February 3rd, 1855, and work began on a smaller version for Empress Eugenie. The same design, except for the Regent, was created by the same team of craftsmen, and in time for the exhibition's opening on May 15th, 1855. The Empress's crown shimmered with 1,354 diamonds, 1,136 rose-cut diamonds, and 56 emeralds. Every detail a triumph of artistry. While the emperor's crown included 102 of the official crown jewels, Eugene's were all purchased by the emperor himself through Le Monnier. So these were not part of the quote-unquote crown jewels of France. Within days of the closing of the exhibition, the large diamond in the band and the Regent of the emperor's crown were removed and replaced with glass copies, while Eugenie's remained in one piece until October 19th, 2025. On September 4th, 1870, we saw the fall of the empire and the end of the dynastic rule in France once and for all. The imperial family fled to England, and what remained of the jewels was sent to an armory in Brest, along with a handful of the most important paintings from the Louvre, including the Mona Lisa. In 1871, the Republic began to talk about what to do with the remains of the crown jewels. More than just a beautiful, shiny gems, they were symbols of the monarchy, and the Republic was quick to want to forever turn the page and move forward. Some jewels were needed to be returned to the descendants of the crown or compensated for them. Very few of the Second Empire's pieces were considered to be crown jewels, as they had never been part of the treasury and were personally purchased by Napoleon III and his family. An 1875 inventory found that over 79,000 francs needed to be paid to the imperial family, meaning Eugenie, as Napoleon III had died on January 9th, 1873. The 8 large emeralds from his crown, as well as her entire imperial crown, were also returned. After the death of Empress Eugenie on July 11th, 1920, almost 50 years past the time of her husband, Emperor Napoleon III, she had left the crown to her goddaughter, Princess Marie Clotilde Napoleon. It was put up for auction in 1988, and the crown was offered by its benefactors, Mr. and Mrs. Roberto Polo, to the Musée du Louvre the same exact year. In 1882, under the inspection of the jewels that were remaining from the crown, they had come up with a plan. Any jewels that were going to be kept had to be either moved to one of 3 places or sold or melted down to avoid becoming a focal point for those wanting the monarchy to return. There was a fear that by having these jewels that it would all of a sudden entice somebody to grab the jewels and take the crown and throne of France once again. In 1886, after 15 years of back and forth in the government, it was decided and the final fate was clear. Group A, the items would be kept and displayed in the Louvre. Group B, they were transferred to the Museum and School of Mines. Or Group C, had them intended for casting and then would be sold. On January 11th, 1887, the law was passed to dispose the crown jewels. The rest would be sold in May 1887 within the Louvre, and I'll tell you all about that in a future episode. Of the emperor's crown, the cross from the top and the remaining diamonds were sold in 1887. The frame was broken, then sent to the Monet to be melted down and was used for 20-franc coins in the Republic. The 8 large diamonds and emeralds from around the band were returned to Empress Eugenie after the fall of the emperor, and the other small diamonds were sold in 1887. 50 of those small emeralds were saved and given to the École Nationale Supérieure des Mines de Paris. They have 45 now. 34 circled the orb. The 1995 inventory showed 46 stones left, somewhere between 1887 and 1921. 15 of the original stones had left. Of the diamonds, or the emeralds, the square-cut emeralds varied in size from 0.18 to 0.41 carats, and 8 round oval cuts range from 0.854 to 1.339 carats. 41 of the 45 are natural emeralds from Colombia, and 4 of them are just glass. What was given to the École des Mines reduces the jewels to a collection of samples and not relics of the crown. It took until 2016 for they were finally labeled as being owned by the Second Empire and can be seen by the public in this very quiet museum near the Jardin de Luxembourg. Unfortunately, just this morning, I went there just to see the emeralds, and sadly, because of the crown jewel theft in the Louvre, the emeralds have been taken off display and put away. I talked to somebody that worked there, and he gave me the number of somebody that I could contact that maybe they would be able to take them out to show them to me. So I will follow up and try to do that. But this museum is incredible. It's literally nobody is in there. I think there was 2 other people when I was there, and it makes me want to learn everything I can about rocks and marble. And what was really great is the collection of marble they had, because for some reason, the Louvre and many other places, including Notre Dame, never have cared about documenting the history of the floors in their places. And the Louvre has amazing marble floors of, 30 or 40 different varieties with no information even in the history of the Louvre office. And now I'm hot on the case. So I will be going back there a lot. So it was very exciting to go to that place. So definitely don't miss it. For the heist, as news of the robbery at the Louvre on the morning of October 19th, 2025 spread, my first thought was this crown. The crown of Empress Eugenie is not just a precious treasure of a forgotten time. It's the only surviving representation of the Imperial Crown, which, if you know where to look, it is all over the Louvre and even in Notre Dame and the Palais Garnier, and on many of the streets of Paris. Napoleon III might not be remembered for his actions as the first president or the last emperor of France. The siege of Prussia leaves a lasting sting in the memory of Paris. However, the way Paris looks today can be largely attributed to the man himself, and he left us reminders in as many places as he could. Napoleon III wanted to create a Paris of grand boulevards topped with beautiful buildings, partially born from his attempted assassination at the wider streets would make it harder for gangs of people to overtake his carriage. One just has to look at the Rue Soufflot at the Pantheon at the top, or the Avenue de l'Opéra and the gorgeous Palais Garnier to see how that vision came to life. There's one place in Paris that felt the full force of Napoleon III's modernization, the Palais du Louvre. Adding an entire wing, which the Richelieu wing, he doubled the footprint of the building, expanding the museum and decorating the endless ceilings that I adore. While the crown is gone, he did leave its image on the Louvre on the facade more than 200 times. Just stand inside the Cour Napoleon near the pyramid, and over every column, topped with one of the 86 great men of France, a band running across the entire facade holds stone versions of the imperial crown. It's also found in the bands of the Denon wing on the south side. A large version as you cross through the Pavillon d'Horloge above the initial of the emperor. At the top of each pavilion, there's a handful more of the lead-covered versions. And in each of the lampposts at the very top in the courtyard, you could see another version of the crown. When one of the biggest still mysteries to this day is over the passage where you go to the quay on the south side towards the Seine, you could find at the very top where there are some gilded backwards ends, which is what is still the great mystery of today, is also gilded versions of the crown. Inside the Louvre, the golden versions are found in the apartments Napoleon III, alongside the coronation regalia above the mirror of a grand salon. It's one of my favorite things in there. And in the corners at the top of the columns. In the next room that served as a theater, 2 paintings copied from Franz Winterhalter, originals that once hung in the Palais des Tuileries, gives us the best depiction of the emperor's crown. It's sitting on a pillow, and it's there, including the Regent diamond within arm's reach of Napoleon III. On the opposite wall, Empress Eugenie has her crown as well and is wearing a diamond and pearl tiara that was stolen also on October 19th. A visit to the Palais Garnier will yield more crowns above the private entrance for the emperor that he never lived long enough to use. In the Musée Carnavalet, the crib for the Imperial Son by Victor Baltard had a stunning depiction of the allegory of Paris holding the crown. The heist of 3 months ago brought an influx of interest into the sad event that nobody could have wished for. 4 thieves arrived at the Louvre at 9:30 in the morning on a quiet Sunday on October 19th. In 3 minutes and 52 seconds, 2 of the thieves cut through the glass, entered the Galerie Napoleon, cut through the 2 closest cases of jewels, and extracted 9 pieces. The glass withstood the impact and didn't break, but in a slit cut by the circular saws, the crooks smashed the imperial crown and pulled through the opening. As they fled down the nacelle furniture lift, they dropped the crown into the moat below the sidewalk. Luckily, it was quickly found and saved, although it's in pretty bad shape. In an interview on October 28, 2025 in Le Monde, the director of the Louvre's Objets d'Art department, Olivier Gabet, shared an update and new information on the crown. One of the golden eagles is missing, as were 12 of the smaller diamonds. All emeralds, large diamonds, and the cross and the globe on the top are still intact. He said it is therefore quite restorable. It is a job that will have to be carried out by restorers in conjunction with jewelry and goldsmith specialists. I am reasonably optimistic that it can be repaired. It will never be the original state, but it will be very close. We may begin to hear a bit more about the investigation starting this week. Just today in the paper, it was announced that the 4 thieves will appear in court before an investigative judge. The investigation led to the uncovering the movements of the crooks before and after the heist, and for the first time today, we know more about what they did after they fled the Louvre. Arriving at the edge of Paris on the north side when they had left a white Citroën Berlingo van, 2 of the men jumped into the van, while the other 2 fled on the high-power scooters. Through public and private cameras, they have tracked their movements to an underground parking garage in the Aubervilliers at 10:27 a.m., pretty much exactly an hour after the start of the theft. The 2 men on scooters arrived. The 2 ID'd as Abdoulaye, also known as Doudou Cross-Boutoum, if you look on YouTube, had entered the Galerie d'Apollon, and Slimane K, one of the getaway drivers. These 2 are seen just under a camera inside the parking garage, passing some of the jewels back and forth to each other. Ugh, I die. They hide the jewels in a locked box before where their scooters are and leave. They say that not all the jewels were there, not all 8 pieces that were stolen. So some of them might have been with the other drivers, so they split them up. At 11:20 a.m., the van arrives to the same garage with Aid G and Rashid H. On the night of October 22nd, Rashid H and Slimane K returned at around 10 p.m. Armed with a signal detector, they wove through the air, convinced that the police might be near. Once they realized the parking lot had cameras, they quickly hid their face. The biggest question is this investigation believes that the jewels may have been hid in that parking lot for 3 days. So I look forward to finding more information that they might be letting out this week, and we'll definitely share that with everybody. But it's going to be, hopefully we get some more information, because it's been a long time since we have really received anything. So I hope to hear some more, and I will share a breaking news episode, because I could do that now anytime. So I'm very excited and happy that you have come to join me. And I think my number 1 rule of Paris is to never pack your schedule. You plan one thing in the morning and one thing in the afternoon, and then enjoy the journey to each spot. Take your time walking through the city. sit at a cafe, watch the world pass by. If you just pack your time, you're kind of not going to remember a whole lot. But if you also are only coming to Paris for a few days and there's so many amazing things to see, of course, that's what you want to do. And also make sure you get your tickets if you want to go to the Louvre or the Orsay and even the Orangerie these days. Buy those tickets in advance. Sadly, the Louvre is going through a lot of strikes again. They're striking again. They did not open yesterday on Monday the 12th. Tomorrow, every morning they have meetings. So most likely, if you're going to come to the Louvre in the next week or so, it's probably not going to be opening on time. So just kind of try to work around it. It has been mostly opening later in the late morning, early afternoon. Monday is only the second time since this all started that they actually close for the entire day. But I do tours of the streets of Paris, and I also plan people's trips. So if you want a little bit more help and a customized plan to maximize your days and nights in Paris, reach out to me. Thank you again so much. Please share this with any Francophile lovers you may know. And I will be back next week with even more, and maybe even before that, if hopefully we get a little breaking news on the heist of the Louvre. A bientôt.